What's happening? You got the Retro Game Hippie, and today I'm coming at you with a pickup video of some items that I picked up, whether it be Facebook Marketplace or flea market / garage sale, or just somebody that I've come across here in this area that always seems to have some stuff I'm looking to get, and I thought I'd share it once again with you. This was over the last, I say month or so ago. You saw some of my pickup videos from a few months prior to that, and I'm going to show you some items that I got from that same person here recently. First up, I'm going to start off with my local thrift store, which is a Goodwill in this small town up in Washington State I live in. It's the only thrift store we have within like a 30-mile radius, and from time to time I find a few things there, mostly some strange board games or puzzles, and if you've seen some of my other pickup videos, I talked about that. But first they had a kind of a guidebook, rule book, not really cheap, man. I think it's just an in-depth rule book on Age of Empires 2, Age of Kings, which was a fantastic PC game that I need to get and start playing once again. I love this very much when it first came out, so nice little guidebook there. And then I recently picked up one of the most modern consoles I've owned, which was an Xbox 360, and I've been playing a little bit on that, and they also had a wired controller for that for $5 at Goodwill. And then I moved on to Facebook Marketplace, and I saw an Atari 2600 that was listed fairly close by. I asked them if they would ship it, and they said yes, they would. And so they wanted $90 for an Atari 2600 that worked, a couple controllers, a couple paddles, and some random games, and then a few games I'm going to show you here that definitely made the deal worth it. So I ended up paying $100 for it to get shipped to me, and so some of the games from it, a bit of a Donkey Kong knockoff called King Kong, and a really cool blue cart. Not a real common 2600 game. A fun boxing game. Again, this goes back to I really like how the design is on the cart of the two dudes there, but it's really not a bad boxing game for Atari. I already had this one in my collection, but it's always good to have another copy in case I ever want to trade it. But Title Match Pro Wrestling, released in '87 on the 2600, so it's an early console wrestling game in terms of for the Atari. But I'm sure by this time in '87 there were some games on Nintendo already. I believe this was also released for the 7800, but it's really not a bad wrestling game for an early on. Based on a very popular TV show that I never really watched, but MASH. This is actually a pretty fun Atari 2600 game. If you've never played it, I recommend it. And last but not least, this is a pretty uncommon 2600 game, and it's the sequel to Q*bert's Cubes. They also had a sequel for Frogger called Frogger 3D. I have that as well for the ColecoVision, and I think I have this game now on Atari 2600, Q*bert's Cubes. So fairly uncommon game lot there. $100 on top of the common games they had, and then the system. So that was definitely a really good deal. And then the local person here, who I found all that turtle stuff I showed before and many other great things, reached out to me. Said they had a few mixed bags of 80s stuff because he knew I liked 80s kinds of things. And so I said, sure, yeah, we'll meet up. One of the things he had was an unopened Pepsi can, still sealed. But this is from the 90s, I think, because the expiration date does say 96, but I don't know how long Pepsi is good for. But he had a can of Pepsi. He had a whole bunch of 80s Happy Meal toys, which are currently drying in my sink because I washed them. But they were some of the interchangeables, I think they called them, where the little meals turned into Transformers. There's some of the chicken nuggets with different designs. There's some of the Mac the Knife Moon guy, I can't remember his name, in a car. But just a whole bunch of 80s Happy Meal toys. No, a couple of small Nintendo ones, but no major Nintendo ones. But then he also had this Ronald McDonald action figure with movable head, which was a feature they had back then. I can't remember if this was made, and I can't tell by looking right now. Ideal Knickerbocker, I think, made these. They made Hamburglar, Grimace, a whole bunch of them, probably even a playset. But Ronald McDonald, kind of freaky action figure. He had that, and he's kind of beat up and dirty. He had this piece that goes to a Game Center storage unit that was interchangeable between Nintendo, as it says here, which you can't probably read, or Atari 2600 on this side, depending on how you used it. Now, this is just one piece. It would have had a rectangular case. It would have had one of those clear foldovers too, but he just had this one piece to it. A lunchbox, Cabbage Patch Kids, not really my thing. I do kind of like how it's bright and yellow. Plastic, no thermos, and just the one graphic, but Cabbage Patch Kid. And last but not least, he had this thing called a Docking Bay 10 that was not made by Nintendo, but was licensed through it, or was recognized by him, to where you could store your NES games like a Rolodex. So he had all those items, and I just told him $60 for that lot. That was a little higher end than I think normally I would pay for it, because it probably was high-end retail, in my opinion, for those items. But he's a really good contact, and he's got lots of good stuff, and I made some really good deals with him in the past, and I want to do that in the future. So, of course, I'm going to give him top dollar on some things, and some things are a little bit more, affordable, manageable for me. So then my local little small town here had a flea market swap meet at the county fairgrounds, which evidently they do once a year. And so this is my first year of getting a chance to go out to it. And it was, probably 50, 60 tables set up of people where some of it was garage sale stuff, some was craft items. So it was a mixed bag, but there was a lot of garage sale stuff. And I found some really good items there. I'll show you the good stuff last, so you make it all the way to the end. But it's some banger video games that I really, really enjoy. But first up, not really a Hot Wheels guy, but I like how this collector's case looks. I think I do remember having that Hot Wheel as a young man. It's in good shape. This was 1975. I would have thought it was more 80s, but that's pretty close. And then it was also stacked full of a few Hot Wheels, but mainly they are micro machines. And these other ones that are called Tootsie Toys. I had to do a little research on that, but they are a die-cast metal, empty body frame, and no markings. But these are the Tootsie ones. There's a whole bunch of different ones. This is an example of one of the many micro machines that are in here, including little semi-trucks that also have these little semi-carriers. There's two trays that were full of these guys. So not really my bag. I'll take them to a trade show, and I'm sure that there's lots of Hot Wheels or micro machines or maybe Tootsie people out there. So definitely something good for trading. And it was only $5 for the whole case. I mean, I was willing to pay $5 for just the case. The fact that there was those cars inside is just a bonus. So then I went over to another little booth there, table, and they had a nice little mixture of things. First up were these cardboard rack toys made by Tootsie, if I said that right. It says at the bottom, Tootsie. Flair Extras. This was something you'd find at a dime store. Nothing on the back, pure cardboard. They're just little plastic hangers. They're made in the size for your Barbie, Miss Flair, Petra, or Sandy figure. Again, this is another little trade item. There's not even a date on these that I could see, but I'm guessing late 70s, early 80s roughly, but 80 little plastic hangers. And then that same table also had a couple of Peanuts activity and puzzle cutout books that are unused. Again, this is a good trade thing. I'm not really a Peanuts kind of person, but kind of fun little activity books here that nobody has used. And I paid $4 for those, so $1 an item. And then the last stuff I got there was the first little table I actually went through. The gentleman who had it was a veteran like myself, and we were kind of talking about veteran things and whatnot. And I was digging through because on the very top of the box of DVDs, he had this Black Label Chrono Cross, which is a game I have owned but never played and always just passed it along. But I love role-playing games, so I was pretty excited to see this there. And it's complete and in really, really good shape overall, and it is Black Label. And he kind of mentioned, he thought that was like a $30 game. And I was like, yeah, it's probably $25 to $30. I don't pull out my phone very often. I just kind of go by what I've seen, what I think it is worth. Have I seen it a lot? What type of game is it? Who made it? I can get a pretty good rough idea on a lot of value stuff. So it's not very often I pull out my phone. And in this case, I didn't either. I was digging through even more and came across this other one, Dragon Quest VII, which I've owned before. I've just never actually played it. Dragon Quest VIII on PS2 is one of my favorite role-playing games on that system. I don't own it now, and I haven't owned it for a while, and I haven't reviewed it, but it's a fantastic game. Great music, great graphics, I think, and just fantastic. I do own it for my phone, and I do play it occasionally, but I'm really curious to see how good Dragon Quest VII is, and of course, it is complete. Last but not least is the first one in one of my favorite role-playing series on the PlayStation 2. I have owned this series in the past, and then I passed it along through, life happens. I reviewed the series before I was going to go and sell it, so it is in my playlist that I had reviewed it before. This is one of the very few role-playing games where I paid attention to the story and followed it along. I just dug it. It's relatively short, but it's a banger. And it's Kuldeka on PlayStation 1. Again, complete with the registration card and everything, really good shape. And I was just shocked to see it again because I was thinking about how I want to bring this back in my collection again. I kind of regret passing along like I did a few months ago, and bang, here it is. Then he also had a couple of other little plushes. Space Ghost from Coast to Coast. I never watched this before. I really think I would dig it if I did watch it, so maybe I'll have to give it a tune. This is from 1999, Hanna-Barbera. And I don't know this guy's name, and it is one of the few Final Fantasy games I've never played at all, even though I own it, but Final Fantasy 9 from 2000, they have this little plush guy as well. So I put that all together, and he was like, give me kind of a price idea on there. I probably hit him a little bit lower now, looking back on it, than I thought. But then again, I'm not in the world of spending a lot of money. So long story short, I looked at it and I figured, well, Kuldeka is going to be at least a $200 game. I know I sold mine for somewhere around that a few years back. Dragon Quest 8 is probably right around $60 to $70 complete. And then Chrono Cross is probably $25 to $30. So, I was looking at over $300 probably in value, roughly there. I was going to keep these, so I was going to go a little higher than normal. But for some reason, I thought he was going to counter back, even though I don't think he was invested. I said, 160 sound okay? And yeah, he was all on board with that. So 160, which was a heck of a deal, however you're going to go about it. But I'm going to keep them, keep them in my collection for a while. At least Kuldeka will be for a while, but I plan on keeping the rest. So 160 for all that, and that was definitely a banger of a deal, in my opinion. So that was all my recent pickups. You got the Retro Gaming Hippie. Remember, I don't buy nostalgia because I am nostalgia, and y'all take care.